Welcome everybody to the AMA. It's Thursday, December 13th or Thursday, December 16th. And the topic for today is anything BrightID. It's wide open. So we have a good group of people and we'll see what questions people have. Yeah, I think that's all we need for the intro. So we've already seen one question that had to do with the Gnosis stake, the Gnosis XDAI merger, that XDAI chain is becoming Gnosis chain very quickly, like things are moving very fast, that it was approved by both sides. And now, yeah, what does that mean? I will say that we have representation. There's a DAO. Let me find what that DAO's name is, but there's a new DAO that formed. Right now it has 15 members that are representing the different projects on Gnosis chain, the like projects that have been there for a while. And I'm one of the members representing BrightID. One of our good friends, Griff Green, is on there. And let me pull up the name of that because it just got an interesting name. Okay, so it's called the Gnosis Chain Innovation DAO. And yeah, I was just looking today, Martin Krippelmann just left us a little note in our Discord saying, hey guys, great to see progress here. And he's gonna join our next call and talk to us about what this Gnosis Chain Innovation DAO is gonna mean. But basically what it is it's this type of thing that we were talking about before we started the recording, which is projects that are using Gnosis chain, that are doing important things and want to expand the ecosystem and create kind of like these public goods general tools for everybody to use in Gnosis chain. They get a chance to receive funds in GNO from the Gnosis Chain Innovation DAO. And it's like the size of the pot that we're dealing with here is pretty significant. The last I was looking, it's like, I mean, I think the exact amount, what was it? I'm trying to scroll back a little bit in the DAO and figure out what it was so that I get the number at least close to right. But we're talking about millions of dollars in funds that can potentially be replenished over time. And distributed to important projects like BrightID and like gardens and other things. So this is great. This is really helpful to us because, as we were talking about before, we want sources of funds that aren't just Bright token, that aren't just Bright. I mean, we love Bright token. We think it's great. It's the governance is really nice, but we're talking about creating permanent pairs and semi-permanent token swaps for to kind of expand what it means to hold Bright, so that you can easily trade Bright, more easily trade Bright, because right now our Gardens DAO pays out in Bright. So but let's say that there was a giant liquidity pool between Bright and GNO, and of course GNO on Gnosis chain is going to have, I mean, their goal is to have lots of liquidity and off ramps and stuff like that. So now it becomes much easier to take your Bright that you got paid from Bright DAO and to, if you need to use it to pay your bills, you can off ramp it directly from Gnosis chain much easier. So anyways, that's really interesting. I'm really excited about the Gnosis chain. That it was weird. It was like a weird environment when that was happening. Because it seemed from the conversations and the forum posts and stuff, it seemed like there was a lot of opposition from the XDAI side. But once it came down to the voting, it just mysteriously evaporated. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that exactly means, but I definitely on the Gnosis side, we were heavily in favor of it. And I think a lot of the developers, people building on Gnosis chain, or yeah, it's now Gnosis chain, were in favor of it. So what do you guys think? Where were the holdouts? I mean, who were these people?
Well, I'll say, so one specific thing I saw on Twitter. So whenever there was Twitter mentions of it, there were always a bunch of comments being very negative, mostly focused on, hey, the state to GNO ratio is not fair.
Oh, I see.
Whenever I looked through the owners of those accounts that were making those comments, I don't think I ever found, it was never from this person I followed. And generally those accounts had very few followers, very little activity, and no one I followed them. So sort of from a social graph standpoint, I don't think that they were real people.
Yeah,
so there was sort of like, it felt like a kind of a FUD campaign to me. And I certainly understand that people that had large monetary investments in stake would have liked it to be worth more. I bought stake at the top and lost, dollar and ETH denominated amounts on it. But I looked at this and said, hey, I think this chain will be much healthier and more successful in the future with the development team of Gnosis descending and coming in as SEAL Team 6 and just getting their hands dirty and making it a playground for development and innovation. So money aside, I just BrightDAO has built on this chain. A bunch of other projects that I believe in have built on this chain, and now I think it's a much healthier place for them to be than without this developer skills.
Yeah, and I think that like we were talking like right after we launched BrightDAO, we were already starting to talk, well, like, are we going to create a roadmap to move to Arbitrum? Because like we just like none of us were too happy with XDAI chain. Now I'm much more happy with the chain that it's going to become with Gnosis chain. And who knows, like maybe this will be our home. They're going to create a beacon chain and become a shard. Like Gnosis chain should become a shard, one of the 64 shards that you hear about for ETH2. So that's pretty cool. So I don't know, like maybe this can be the BrightDAO's home for a while, for longer than we expected. So that'd be cool. So I just looked up the number that we're asked, that the Gnosis Chain Innovation DAO is asking, 40K GNO. So that's like at about $500 per GNO. That's like, what is that? 500, it's what, is that 10 million, or I'm doing that, or 20 million, or am I doing that wrong? Let's see. Calculate
40,000?
40, yeah, 40,000.
20 million.
20 million. Okay, so that's like pretty decent, and that's to fund. Right now, there's 15 different projects in there represented in that DAO, but like it's one of the main things that we made in the charter is we don't want this to be like a heavily favoring the early discoverers of this DAO or whatever, the first members, but anyone who has like a cool idea and wants to innovate on Gnosis chain should be able to join this multi-sig, get representation, and especially get funding from it. So it's gonna be great.
What's the structure of that DAO?
Right now it's a Moloch DAO with 15 members, and there's like particulars. There's like some particular like Gnosis DAOs have configurations. I'm trying to remember what they are.
So
I can't right now, but
it's a Gnosis Moloch. I don't know that I've ever
yes
Gnosis DAO.
Yeah, it's actually on Gnosis chain, and it's a Moloch. Yeah.
Sorry, what it means. So like the Moloch DAOs, a bunch of Moloch DAOs are like DAO House. It's not DAO House, right? It's something Gnosis based.
No, you can. I mean, there's a DAO House front end. As far as I understand, DAO House is just a way to manage. So here, I'll put a link in the chat here. But if you you might be able to. Anyways, it's got this like this really long, crazy, including the smart contract address, but there it is. So if you're watching on YouTube, you won't be able to find it through there, but yeah, you can look at the configurations and the members and stuff.
Okay, so it is a DAO house.
Yeah, so it's been yeah, so we're using DAO House to manage it.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's yep. And so
I'd like to see what tools smart teams choose to use. And nobody's ever fully happy with the tools that they choose, because like we all have dreams of better tools that will exist in the future. But we really do have to make decisions and choose something. So hey, here they are, the thing that they're choosing when confronted with we need a DAO right now is a DAO house. Cool.
Yeah, and not only that, but so we started out as a multi-sig with the idea that as soon as
15
possible.
person multi-sig?
No, I think it was 4 of 9 or something weird like that. But anyways, that multi-sig very quickly. So that multi-sig is going to stick around to do kind of like how there's a BrightDAO has a multi-sig both on Ethereum and on Gnosis chain to be able to do things like minting new tokens, transferring like large complicated operations that might be too tricky for a DAO to do, that involve bridging between chains or like how we spun up another multi-sig to do this liquidity pool between One Hive and BrightDAO. So we're keeping that multi-sig around just in case we need it, as kind of like just a trusted delegate to do certain complicated operations. But I think we might want to mostly try to do things through this this Moloch DAO. We talked about gardens. We talked about so my preference would have been just a normal Aragon DAO, just because I think that in my experience they work a little bit better than Moloch DAOs. But anyways, I think people were more familiar with Moloch than Aragon, so I think it's pretty good. I think it could do most of the things that an Aragon DAO could do. We didn't go with gardens because I feel like this is going to be more like your project gets a grant for like a whole year or something like that. It's not going to be like, oh, we're going to do this little task. Our team's going to get together and we need a budget for 1 month to do this one task or something like that. So gardens didn't seem appropriate. Also, I think, I'm not sure, but we definitely have at least 2 assets that we're holding, GNO and XDAI. So it makes sense to, like, it's easier to hold multiple assets in a Moloch DAO. You can use something called a minion vault. That's similar to like an Aragon vault. So anyways, it's pretty good.
And I'll say one feature that Gardens is definitely going to need to have in the future is the ability to manage multiple assets. Like that just, like, of course it needs to be able to do that.
Yeah, so there was I'm trying to remember, there's a project that's partnering with BrightID. I was just talking to his name's Freiheit in our Discord yesterday about it, but he showed me their deck. So this is for I think it's okay to say it. I don't think I'm like spoiling any future announcement, but it's for something called DAO Land. And anyways, they said that their plan is to make a gardens DAO, but they also want to be able to pay out in a stable coin.
Mm-hmm.
So that like, and I said, like, we want to do that. Like, tell it, if you figure out because he's like, yeah, our token economists are working on like figuring that out. I'm like, okay, if you figure that out, like, let us know, because we would love to be able to do that too. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. That's like a gardens feature that we really need, because it doesn't make, like, if you know that a group is doing a task and getting paid, and this is all going to go straight to their paying their bills, this is like their monthly income, then you want to pay them in a stable coin. It doesn't make sense to pay them in Bright, or maybe a mix, like maybe they get a Bright bonus for doing it. Good job.
If they're going to turn around and sell 100% of what they receive as soon as they receive it, then it didn't make sense to give them the token to begin with, like that.
Yeah, Bright is meant to be held as an investment in the community. And yeah, we do pay people in Bright, but that's just because that's what Gardens does. But it would be better to pay people for just regular tasks. I mean, I do like the idea of kind of, it's almost like it's almost, I don't want to say stock options because that's stupid, but like it's like you can get a bonus in community tokens for doing great work that you're maybe supposed to hold as like just a signal that you believe in the community. But
and for the lawyers looking at this video in the future, none of this is financial advice. Speak to your own financial advice professionals.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny because like when One Hive launched, they said honey is money. We never tried to say, like, I don't know.
Bright is right.
I would say that Bright is definitely more like money than like stock options or something like that. It's definitely more like money than it is like a that sort of asset, but it's still not, it's not like money in the sense that money should be stable. It should be the preferred way of being paid. And Bright is like, just like Ethereum and just like honey, it's like pretty, the price fluctuates more than you would like. So anyways, so yeah, that would be cool if we could figure that out and figure out how to hold, I guess on Gnosis chain, XDAI would be the stable coin of choice. So hold some, hold a bunch of XDAI, or there were also some other, I remember someone coming and pitching to us about, hey, we can create a stable coin, like your own stable coin, your own branded stable coin backed by your own community token. That's interesting. I mean,
I thought it was interesting too. I remember I first heard that in Gitcoin DAO, and people were like, "Oh yeah, that sounds really interesting," but I don't believe it ever went anywhere, and they paid more attention to it than we ever did. So
right.
The fact that they didn't choose to do it makes me question, maybe there was something not so good about it. I'll also point out that most algorithmic kind of stable coins have failed. It's really hard
to
do a stable coin that's not either backed by the real asset or enough people, Tether believe, accept that it is.
Yeah, it's totally surprising to me that Tether's still around, but anyways, that's a weird one. But like, yeah, I mean, XDAI realized early, or not XDAI, I keep saying XDAI, DAI realized early on that they needed to diversify the collateral and not just hold ETH. Yeah, it's like pretty, it seems pretty, I don't know how it would work if you're just backing it with your own community token. I don't know how you create a stable coin that doesn't like get liquidated all the time or something. So I don't know. So cool. Let's see if there's, I see some other, oh yeah.
Yeah, Billy asked, is there a way BrightID can be used for a Twitter contest?
So I will say that we've used BrightID in Discord for Discord contests. The one that comes to mind is about a year ago, we had a hackathon and we decided like one of the big prizes was going to be the community prize. And so we said, okay, everybody that has done the scanned the or linked the BrightID unique bot, the Discord bot, then you can vote in this. So anyone who had the verified role in our server could vote in the community poll to see who won. So that worked really well. It was pretty awesome. And anyone with a Discord server can do that. So with Twitter, I'm trying to think, what are the challenges that make it a little different than Discord? I mean, there's a lot of inherent similarities. You can do polls in Twitter. You can, I don't know. I guess I'll say what makes it easier in Discord, I think, is that Discord allows you to assign roles. So it's really easy to have for people to have the verified role. So
Right,
if
we can't mark a Twitter account in a way
yeah,
that Twitter accepts. But
right.
we can mark Discord
Some
in a way that
people-
Discord understands.
right. Like some quote unquote famous people can get like a little blue check mark next to their name on Twitter, but that's a centralized thing that Twitter it gives out. Like you couldn't, as far as I know, you can't get badges that would be really sweet. Like that would be really cool. Like that's something Keybase does, that's something Discord does, where servers can assign badges or roles to people. Like imagine if Twitter started doing that, that would be really fun. And then BrightID could assign, like you could have a BrightID Twitter bot where if you had certain BrightID verifications, you could get badges. You could collect badges on Twitter that everyone could see. That would be pretty cool. So one thing you could do is you could say, like, you could provide a way to link your Twitter to a BrightID publicly. I don't like that. And one of the nice things about the Discord unique bot is you get your verification and you didn't have to say like which BrightID account you have. I don't want to do anything that like makes people feel like they're kind of forced to divulge more information about themselves than they really want to. We never want to go down that path with BrightID. Like BrightID has always been stay on the side where we don't BrightID doesn't collect any data. It doesn't pressure anyone into linking their BrightID to any sort of like outside account or data in a public way. And so I think Twitter's like they're just too public. Like they don't allow enough of this like private stuff, like keeping like privately assigned badges, privately I don't know, things like that. So I'm not sure how to do it with Twitter. Does anybody else have any ideas how you could do something like that with Twitter?
So I'll mention the non-Twitter native way. So right, certainly you can put links in a Twitter post. So you could have a contest that required BrightID where you just went to a website and you did whatever BrightID actions that we need the person to do. And you just put a tweet on Twitter that says, here's the link to the contest.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not happening on Twitter at all, but people got there because it was talked about on Twitter. So that's certainly one thing that we got. Yeah, I don't know if there's a way. Is there a way? Would it be useful such that there was a place that you could go, and if someone had a Twitter account and they linked it to a BrightID in a way that you couldn't see which one it was, but you could see the verifications. You could see the B2 score or something of that Twitter account.
Yep. So exactly what you said. You create an intermediate app. So you could even hold the poll on Twitter, but you create an intermediate app that allows people to anonymously link their BrightID and join this anonymity set, like this big group of people that are anonymous because you don't know, like because you're lumped with, let's say, 1,000 other people. You don't know which of those 1,000 you are in BrightID terms. So you could link a bunch of you could link people to that intermediate app, and then that app and then with using your like verification that you get from that app, that's what you could share publicly on BrightID. So rather than sharing your actual BrightID, you share kind of this like intermediate thing, and there's no way to link that back to a BrightID. So that's so you'd have to create a new Twitter app, and someone should do this. So if you're watching YouTube or listening in, like create an app for like doing anonymous yet bot resistant Twitter polls. And so Victor's raising his hand.
I think that you're thinking too much ahead, because first of all, you need to define what is a Twitter contest. You cannot do any kind of contest on Twitter. The only thing that you can do is tell to the people, hey, follow me, follow this, and respond this in this comment. And that's all that you can do on Twitter. I mean, in Twitter, that's the only thing you could do. It doesn't matter. It has BrightID in between, or it has any other thing. The only thing that you can do in Twitter is just tell to the people, follow me, follow this, and respond. That's all you can do on Twitter. You cannot do anything more. For anything else, you will need a third-party application or something like that. So in the beginning, that's not a question, because Twitter doesn't allow anything more than that.
So if you did what I just said, it would still be really clunky, because if you try to do a Twitter poll, there's no way that I know to exclude a Twitter poll to like just people who have done a certain step that Twitter is not aware of. Because let's say that you link your Twitter account, then you would get this poll that's being put out on Twitter, but it would be mixed because there's no way to like stop people from voting in the poll. So you would have a mix of like votes that are going to be counted and votes that aren't going to be counted.
Exactly.
And then when so you can still come up with the right answer, but people would be like, wait a minute, I looked at the poll and it looked like choice B was winning, and now you're telling me that choice A was winning, and you're like, well, yes, we filtered out all the bots.
So I was thinking,
because it doesn't show you, it's kind of not worth it.
I was thinking about that application. It's a web application that can give you entries if you follow on Twitter, you subscribe on YouTube. So it's going to check each of that kind of thing. I don't remember the name of the application, but maybe, I don't know, if someone can implement that you are verifying BrightID like a check mark. So it's going to give you more entries. It's something like that. It could be done more easily, I think.
Yeah, so Twitter's just not very friendly for that.
Yeah, Twitter.
I think like Reddit and Discord are much more friendly for stuff like that. So that's what I would recommend. Like the Discord thing already exists. We've already got the Discord integration. You can do Discord polls for people that have been BrightID verified. Like the Reddit one should be pretty easy to do. So like someone go build the Reddit one. Twitter, yeah, that's gonna be tough.
Michael just pasted in the chat the web page I was talking about, gleam.io. I'm sorry. So there is a web page where you can do not only Twitter, but a lot of other web page. You can check out if you fill some kind of criteria. So maybe there you can implement some kind of BrightID verification or something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So I'm not sure if it's possible for Gleam.io to extend it somehow, but this would be a nice addition, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be like a cool crossover to between like Web 2 and Web 3 to get like Web 3 users to be able to be verified in the beginning. Actually, I mean, I don't know. You could just no, that would be I think Gleam would be like a cool Web 2 business to integrate BrightID with. Nice. Let's see, do we have any other questions? I don't see any, but I'm going to add Gleam to our like potential partners to contact, because that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think they're used a lot by streamers on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. So they make a lot of giveaways and stuff like that.
Yeah, so something I've noticed is most of the Web 2 companies that I've contacted, they're like, yeah, but if we integrate BrightID, then it's going to slow down like our user acquisition because they have to go through this other hoop. And in a way that is what BrightID is trying to do. And we're trying to slow down user acquisition so that you make sure you get real users. But like Facebook doesn't give a crap. but the thing is, something like this, you could make it optional. Like the person who's creating the like the poll or whatever could say, or the competition could say like, okay, we do like we want ours to we want to make sure that this competition only has real people. So yeah, we do want to integrate BrightID. It would be up to each individual competition to decide that. So that's a good one. I'm going to add it to our partners sheet. So thank you.
And someday when there's a whole lot more people on BrightID, right? We, as all of us know that have been on BrightID for a while, yeah, there's some friction when you get started to begin with, but once you're on it, doing the next application for BrightID is trivially easy, right? No one complains about connecting their third app. It's right. It's simple, and right now we've got 30 some odd thousand verified BrightID folks, but when that's a million, it's more attractive. When it's 10 million, when it's 100 million, where and it's funny. It's like also how big is our community compared to the community that is looking to use it, right? If BrightID is a million and there's a whole lot of people that are looking for the next thing that their BrightID can let them do, if we tell them, hey, here's this new opportunity just for you people with the BrightID passport, they could descend en masse and be a huge way for a new application to get users, as opposed to having to send their community that's never heard of BrightID starting through the process to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, we're already starting to notice apps that are excited about that. Part of the reason why they're using BrightID is they're excited about the existing BrightID user base, like that they will have kind of an already interested community that will try out their app. And the more BrightID users there are, the less friction there is. And so once there's, I don't know what the magic number is, but let's say once there's 10 million BrightID verified users, then it's suddenly not that hard to approach Web2 companies that already have millions of users and say, like, okay, well, let's do a user study and figure out how many of your users already use BrightID, and or how many users you stand to gain just by launching with BrightID. So it suddenly becomes a different conversation.
I also think that with the bigger players, being able to do it as a bonus, not as a requirement up front. It's like, hey, anybody that does do, your video game that has 10 million users, right? Anybody that does it gets this bonus skin or gets some free gold or whatever it is that would be attractive to the users, worth their time to deal with it, but not a requirement until you get enough people through the funnel, you understand the process, it's working, then maybe you increase the reward even further. Okay, now it's a drip. I me, I'm a fan of UBI. UBI should exist in video games, and it already does, right? There's resources that just sort of like accumulate to your character in a game because it's essential, and like, or it's trivially easy to acquire that asset, just like walking around the virtual world. That asset could accrue to you faster if you were BrightID verified in the game.
Definitely.
So that like more and more people do it until eventually you're like, it makes enough sense. Like you get twice as much resources if you're BrightID verified. Anyone that's not BrightID verified, it's like, why? Yeah,
that's a great bridge. Like that's a great inroads for like an app.
No, everyone know why. Everyone know the reason, because the civils is the really biggest problem that right now the gaming industry of the blockchain has. So I mean the real user that doesn't use civils know the real problem that the civils are, because every blockchain game that want to do something is just dying because of civils. Because there is a lot. I mean, Axie Infinity is the biggest, the most popular, and you can see videos there with people with hundreds and hundreds of mobile devices in I don't know, in walls playing Axie Infinity. Just one person playing in hundreds of phones. It's funny and terrifying,
Mhm.
and that was kill the balance with the token and the play to earn. So everyone will love to have an anti-civil to play Axie Infinity.
Yeah.
Really effective.
I'm looking at my notes and we haven't talked to Axie in like a year.
A long
So
time.
it's time
Yeah.
to out again.
I remember, we had a great talk with Jiho, back before they got popular, and Axie was just a toy. It wasn't a multi-billion-dollar behemoth with the biggest Discord server in existence.
Yeah, I
But
think
right, how much of that is civils?
yeah,
I bet
right.
it's a lot,
Yeah.
because it's a lot everywhere, right? The thing about civils is they are more prevalent than anybody thinks that they are, because it's a small minority of people are doing the civil attacking, but their capacity to civil attack is really, really high. It's just like spam email. Most people don't send any spam email, but the people that do send spam email send billions of them.
Right. Yeah. So I think the method that you mentioned is like a brilliant way to make an inroads into an app that already has a large user base. We should definitely rekindle our talks with Axie and others that are doing making like large multiplayer games. And I think that another interesting way is the one that we just identified for Gleam, which is like just leave it up to if you have a platform where people can kind of create their own little thing within the platform, then just leave it up to the individual creators. In this case, creating a online competition. Leave it up to the creators to decide: do you want BrightID or not? And if it's if they're willing to slow down the application process and to be more careful about not bringing in bots, then yeah, use BrightID.
Someone noted that Good Ghosting would be interested in having this chat. I'm curious if anybody here has more information. I don't know Good Ghosting well. I've heard the name, but don't know the project or what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them on Gitcoin grants, so I know they're a public good. But do you want to tell us about it, Kale? I'll follow up with y'all after. Okay, cool. Like send them over to like if anyone's interested in integrating with BrightID or someone that is, send them over to our Discord. We have an integration channel there, and we're happy to like talk with people about whether it makes sense to use BrightID and walk them through the process of integrating with BrightID. Okay, cool. So Kale is the community manager. Yeah, definitely join us add your when you come to our Discord, add the integrator role to yourself so that you can be in the integrations channel and we can talk to you about integrations.
How does one do that, Adam?
How does one do what?
Add the integrator role?
So there's a something called choose your interests. There's a channel called choose your interests, and you pick the emoji for the roles that you want. So let me look at it right now to see what interests there are. It says, so there's 2 questions under choose interests. How do you want to participate in BrightID? DAO, developer, researcher, node operator, integrator, farmer, trader. Which apps are you interested in? Gitcoin, OneHive, Rabbit Hole, ID Chain, Rare, ClearFund, the Ether. So yeah.
So I'm sorry, guys. Like the Spanish meeting needs to start like now.
Time to end. Yeah.
Right.
Really great talking to everybody. Love the conversations. And yeah, see you guys in Discord. Take care, everybody.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.